Hey, how's it going? It's Man Tomorrow here. Get some people in here, get the likes up, then we'll be able to get started. Because a lot of people just do not understand that you're not supposed to run a business like this. They really don't understand it. And for the most part, you are never supposed to succeed, period, by cutting corners. And I'm going to give you two good examples, very recent examples, of how this stuff really doesn't work all that well. Because you have to understand that in order to cut corners, you have to understand the process of what you're actually getting into. And that's where a lot of people mess up at. They see they have the ability to make money, and since their economic circumstances are so dire because of their own actions, they feel like they don't have enough time to actually properly invest in whatever they're putting their money or their time into because they're trying to get a quick result out of it. And I'm just telling you that that stuff don't work. And the worst possible thing you could do in these types of circumstances is to get a win under said thought process. Once you get a win under these type of thought processes, it's really going to damage you going forward because you're going to forever want to be barely invested. Then you're going to want a result that's based on professional investment. Let me give you an example. Now, I do not suggest anybody do this. I cannot stress enough or hard enough. This is not something that you ear hustle, that you go out there and try, which is what this individual did. Again, don't do this. So this individual bought a truck from an auction. I think he probably paid like 5,500 for the truck. Not bad for a starter truck. It was in decent condition. He did everything he was supposed to do. And like sometimes when you do everything that you're supposed to do, the engine went out. He spun a bearing in the engine, so he messed up the engine block and he messed up the crank, which means he's going to need either a salvage engine from a truck that was either in an accident or he's going to have to need a new engine that's already rebuilt. These are the two options. They're not good options. The rebuilt engine, obviously, if somebody's going to go through the time of lifting an engine out of a truck and they rebuilt all the parts on it, and you never know how far they go into rebuilding it, they'll just call it a rebuilt engine. They're going to charge you a lot of money for it because they know how much money you're going to make off of needing this engine. So, for instance, most engines go from, if they're older trucks, they go anywhere from 6,500 to about 8 or 9,000, depending on the actual year that the truck came out of. Yeah, and every engine is not a one-to-one swap for an engine itself. No, what this person doesn't understand is these engines can go in all manner of trucks. You're just not looking for an engine just for an engine's sake. The best thing to do, if you're going to go down this road, the very best thing you can do is to get a one-to-one comparison on the truck that you have and pick the engine from the same type of truck. Because there's a ranking system that always works. First of all, they better have recorded the ECM hours and the mileage off the engine. I don't care how damaged your truck is in an accident. I don't care how mangled it is on the side of the road. When they pick it up to take it to a junkyard or wherever they take it to, you should be able to get the mileage off the dashboard. You should be able to do that. Here's the importance of doing that. And the reason why you choose engines that have the actual ECM hours and the actual mileage over those who don't. The ECM hours and the mileage can correspond with the actual VIN number of the truck because there's no such thing as an actual truck that has no type of paper trail to it if you were to take it to a freight liner. Oh, Johnny Blaze. So the reason why you have all this stuff so that way you can verify that it's a one-to-one match comparison for the truck that you have. There are places you can go in the United States where you can get salvage engines. One of them is River City Truck Parts in like Louisville, Kentucky. That's a very good example of where you can get a whole bunch of engines. And they're all sitting outside. If you ever driven through downtown Louisville, you can see it on the side as you drive through downtown. But they're not going to be real honest with you about where the engine came from. And if they're not honest with you about where the engine came from, you don't buy it. Because if they cannot record basic information about the truck and you can't verify the VIN, you have no idea whether you have a one-to-one comparison. You may have the engine that you need for your actual truck, but the actual engine mounts on the truck may not fix your truck if it's a Pete or an Volvo, and it needs to come into a Freightliner or vice versa. That's why you have to make sure that this stuff works properly. So now you got this going on. Since you don't understand how engines go into trucks, you're talking to people over the phone about what to do. Okay, so different people have different motivations for doing things. An administrative person is not a parts person. A parts person is not a mechanic. A service guy, technician, is not an engine specialist. A service manager is not an actual mechanic foreman. These are all different groups of people with all different types of motivation. So when you call into a place, you got to make sure you're talking to the right people because a parts guy is there to sell parts. They don't care. They're graded on how many parts they can get out of the building. They don't care about the efficacy of what you got going on personally. They don't really care about you ordering the wrong part, it being flown halfway across the country. And next thing you know, you got an expensive paperweight that you can't send back because most of these parts that you receive in these situations are non-refundable. Or they say 90 days, same as cash, whatever. It still means that you're going to be forced to do business with these people as long as you give them your money. That's the parts person's motivation. None of that parts guy's motivation has anything to do with you getting the proper part for your stuff. The actual technician itself. The only motivation that most technicians have is having trucks in their shop to actually work on versus not. You're going to run into this all the time the moment you're broke down on the side of the road. And yes, you're going to be paying hundreds, if not thousands of dollars for basic, very basic mechanic work on the side of the road. So when most people volunteer or make themselves available in this type of setup, they're just trying to get you down the road. So that way you can be somebody else's problem. They're not going to fix it properly. Then you have the service manager. Service manager's job is to bring as many trucks in and to get as many trucks out as possible. He's kind of like the parts guy. They will agree to everything. They will say that they got room open. You'll drive your ass down there and or get your truck towed there, and all of a sudden they 2 or 3 days out. But they tell you to bring your truck there. Because see, if you don't know how these things work together or interplay together, you're always going to get screwed over because you do not understand the process here. Now, a technician foreman can be a hell of a lot more honest with you over the phone. Why? He's the person that's actually hands on and has the responsibility of the actual service manager. So the person to tell you up front what he or she, because there are women who are actually are foremen, about what they want to work on and what they don't want to work on. Because that foreman is also in charge of having things in their shop and out of their shop. So when you got somebody in administration who got a basic part number on the internet, they hang you off to a parts person, but you don't talk to an actual technician foreman, you can have an expensive paperweight on your hands. But see, you don't know this because see, you're trying to do it in a way that it doesn't need to be done. You got to match up these VIN numbers to make sure that this engine came out of a one-to-one basis what you had. Because if not, you can add an extra 20 hours on, an extra 30 hours on, trying to re-drill engine mounts and all that kind of stuff that just headaches that don't need to be if you go about getting the correct part the right way. So this individual heard this information, went out to go get him an engine, but he went and got the engine the wrong way because he did not understand the process of how this works. He's never seen it work. He's never talked to anybody who's ever done this before. He was just in this situation because he was trying to get as much money as possible. He made a couple of bad calls, and now he's trying to get out of a horrific situation. Now he has to go buy another engine, the correct one. I asked this individual, did you see any video of this engine running? Because yes, nearly most part shops that sell engines show you a YouTube video of the engine actually running. Because it doesn't take a lot to make an engine run. Believe it or not, just sitting there, it doesn't take a lot. He didn't even see any of that. So I showed him several examples of other people who sold engines and engine parts and YouTube videos of the actual engine running with an actual camera on the serial number of the actual engine, so that way no one can just fake having, a whole bunch of noise without verification. Tell him about it. Tell him about it, man. So he made two mistakes. He bought the correct engine, but he bought the correct engine that came out the wrong type of truck, and the actual EPA rating of the engine that he bought was less than the actual EPA rating rated for his actual truck. Now, a person could actually put or roll back your EPA rating, which is no one's going to sign that paperwork because that's against the law. So now you got the wrong engine. You got the wrong EPA rating that doesn't match up with your truck. So if you were to go across state lines and they put this scanner on your truck, they know how much emissions is supposed to come out of your truck or not based on the actual year of it. So I'm like, dude, listen, if you have a 14-liter Detroit and you roll it back to a 12.7, any of the years, they're 12.7, you can use the 90s up until, probably 2000, I think 5 or 6 when they started the 14-liter. I'm like, dude, listen, if you roll back your EPA rating on your actual truck, this is a different truck. And if you get stopped and you get pulled into one of those booths, you know what it is. Type of booth that's about 16 feet high, and they check your EPA rating on your truck to make sure that you didn't delete the actual the DPF or the DEF off your truck. Once you go through that, that is no longer your truck anymore. That truck now belongs to the state. And not only does it belong to the state, your ass is going to have a very huge fine associated with you having altered equipment on the road. So I'm like, look, where did you get this information from? Oh man, I just heard you could do. I'm like, dude, listen, man. You could have called any number of mechanics. You could have went into any number of service places. I'm like, dude, listen. They have a W.W. Williams or an actual equivalent of that because I'm a Freightliner guy. I'm a Detroit guy. They have those things all over the country. You could have took one phone call to call an actual foreman, and he would have told you that I wouldn't buy that engine. I wouldn't do that under these circumstances. But this person got all the way into these type of circumstances before he actually asked for any type of help. I'm like, bro, listen. I know you want to be up. Everybody wants to be back up. Sometimes, man, this is why you go get, as soon as you have a year in operation, this is why you go get a Penske and a Ryder account. While you're going to be losing money renting a truck, because I'm telling you, it's going to be pretty expensive depending on where you're renting it from. However, it's better than buying the wrong part and trying to get something running that is not going to run. You cannot treat engines like paint jobs. Yes, most paint will go on to damn near any surface. But most engines on a one-to-one basis is not going to go in every kind of truck. You got to understand the motivations of all these people. This is why you got to have people that you can go to for answers already picked out. Most of these mechanics who I talk to, I got their cash app. Once I ask them a question, once I call them, they answer the phone. After they give me advice, I cash app them. Why? Because their information is important to me when I'm calling for something and I don't know the answer. Yeah, I rebuild all mines at a mill five, all of them. And it's not hard to keep something going that long either, but it's easy to destroy one with neglect. You're right about that. So, what I'm simply saying here is that please understand the process of what you're trying to get into. I don't know what the hell I'm doing sometimes. I can't wait to reach out for help. If I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm willing to pay for a proper assistance. Not because I want to be right, I want the process to be right. If I'm ever back into this type of situation, I want the process to be correct. The process to be something that makes sense, the process that works. Because what happens is these people receive a win or a moderate amount of money upon following an improper process, and now they're chasing that high for the rest of their lives. Well, in this situation right here, I wasn't even invested in. Look at all the benefit I got out of it. Man, that's the wrong type of way to be looking at things. Glorious one, thanks for that $5 super sticker. Most of these things, as easy as it looks, it isn't easy. It's very specific. You have to reach out for the information so that way it can be specific to you. Because if you turn around and you do the wrong damn thing, it's not going to work out well for you. It just isn't. Now this individual will have to go out and buy a correct engine. This dude just spent, they got him good too. This is a $6,500 engine. At best, $6,500. Wrong type of engine, wrong type of truck, couldn't verify the ECM or hours, no VIN number, can't verify whether it's the same body type and model that it is. Made all the mistakes. And on top of that, what's going on, Wacky Word? And and on top of that, he bought the wrong type of engine for his actual vehicle. Here's the thing. Most of these companies who take these engines out of these wrecked trucks, they know that engine is going to sit there for 3 to 5 years before they sell it. If you find a seller. This is why they buy these wrecked and salvaged trucks and with salvage titles for like $3,000 or $5,000. They go in there, they take somebody, they take out all the good parts of it, the air compressor and the transmission in most cases, and sometimes the engine, because there's could be a lot of body damage. You wreck some mounts on the actual truck, and the truck is considered total. If there's a fire, any type of fire on the truck, boom, the truck's total. They're never gonna put it back on the road. But the engine and the transmission and everything else could be good on it. But see, if you don't know all of that going in, there's no reason to get invested or involved in this quickly. Because most police reports have the VIN number of the actual truck. So that way you can look up the police report associated with the truck. This isn't hard to cross-reference. And no one's going to be taking the truck past state lines unless you're like on some Kansas City, Kansas or Kansas City, Missouri type situation. Something like that, or like a Chicago, Illinois to like a Gary, Indiana, like those type of situations. These things are pretty easy to find. This is why you got to have the VIN number associated with the engine that you're picking up. Because you're going to have the make, model, and everything else. So that way you can see whether or not with the person who's going to be doing the work, is this a feasible outcome or not? Because what a jury, I'm sorry, not not jury foreman. Natural mechanic foreman, what they're going to do is they're going to ask you for the model number of the actual engine. They ask for the model number. So that way the model numbers match. So that way the body types match. That's what it is. They have this comparison chart. So dick up. So it's like there's a lot of moving parts here that you have to learn about. And if you don't, pay somebody. Like I said, I love being in situations where I don't know the answer. That's another opportunity for me to learn some things and save myself thousands of dollars while doing so. Now, I gave you all this information, and I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a mechanic. I'm not a parts person. I'm none of that stuff. But I am educated and well informed on going down a road if I wanted to go down that road. And you have to be this way too. Do you realize how many books I have to read? How much stuff I have to keep abreast on? How many technicians I continuously talk to? Even though things are going right for me, I want to make sure that I'm educated and involved in the process of what I'm actually in. Because I know once you mess up something within this process, it's going to cost you a hell of a lot more money, and a hell of a lot more money, and a hell of a lot more money. Which is the reason why you got into this business or any other business, is to make money. Most of the information that you come across is things that you don't need to be doing or trying, and listening to everybody else's screw ups and not practicing those things yourself. That's what most of this or any type of business is about. But see, you got to be invested and involved and care about the actual outcome and have a usable path to get there in order for the stuff to work right. Because if you don't, you're going to be trying to chase that high of cutting corners because it worked out for you one time when you really needed it. Now you're trying to chase that high forever, making this a very, very expensive and unneeded process for yourself when it don't need to be. You don't need to make these mistakes, man. Other people have already made these mistakes for you. You don't need to be worried about anything right now other than things working appropriately. That's it. That's all you got to do, man. It's not hard. You got to stop thinking that you got to grow as fast as possible. No, man, you need slow, steady, consistent growth. That works too. You can stop needing all of this type of help and assistance if you don't mess up your personal life so that way you need your real life to cover for your personal life. Your real life is supposed to be your real life. Get that right. Real life is supposed to carry over to the personal life. That's supposed to be the same. Your personal life is supposed to carry over to your love life. That's supposed to be the same. If you got one of these things not really working appropriately with the other, it's going to cause problems with the other three portions of life. So you may so you may as well get this stuff right, or you're just going to be facing these unneeded consequences when you don't need them. I tell you right now, there is nothing like getting a hot load of $6, $7 a mile. They come to you and you ain't got no truck ready. They come to you, they know you're in town, but you ain't got no truck ready. You just can't walk into a Penske or Ryder to go get a truck and be like, hey man, no matter what's going on, this money's too good. I'm gonna keep running. Or else I'm gonna keep the actual person whose truck this is, who they're driving, running. The world is not gonna wait for you to get the act together, man. They're just gonna go to another person who's better prepared than you. You don't have to be the smartest person in the world to be better prepared than the next person. There's a lot of people in this industry of transportation getting paid untold amount of money. Not because they're smart, it's because they're prepared. It's because they hired the right people. It's because they go through the actual thing the proper way. And this is why I say you have to deal with one engine of truck. I was a person who had four different type of manufacturers and different engines in different years. Didn't know what the hell I was doing or going on. And it worked for a while until things started breaking down, and then I started receiving those $20,000 bills, $30,000 bill. Like, damn, it cost that much to rebuild an ISX Cummins? Yes. Yeah, that truck for 3,000. Yeah, it sounded like a good deal when that thing was up, when it was running hard. Yeah, but now you need $26,000 worth of rebuild. Yeah, this thing was sitting in the yard for like 7 months before I got it back up. Yeah, this stuff is for real, man. This stuff is for real. And I doubt it is any different from any other business. I'm just telling you specifically from a transportation standpoint about how this stuff works. So I want to thank you guys for coming through because I got this newer truck that I just picked up from Big Rapids, Michigan. I was by the Big Rapids airport yesterday. I don't know why my 4G kept turning on and off, on and off, on and off for whatever reason. But that's where I was yesterday, picking up this truck. What's going on, Roosevelt? So I want to thank you guys for coming through. Make sure you like the video. We're going to be going into another direction. So I want to thank you guys for coming through and still staying subscribed. And you guys have a really nice day. Peace.